All right, you're out on the first day with your brand new truck, and the first thing you have to do is put water in it. So how do you do that? Well, this system is very quick to fill. As long as you have enough water to pump into this truck, it can certainly distribute it through the tanks very quickly. So you have a 2-inch fill right here, and there is a valve on this fill system. So you want to hook in your 2-inch supply line, and then you want to open this valve. And then you have water that's available to come in, and now you can select which tank or tanks you would like to fill. You can fill one at a time, all of them simultaneously. There's even a valve here to fill the 60-gallon tank in the front of the truck. And you just need to be careful of the fact that the tanks are different sizes. You have one 500-gallon tank, you have two tanks that are 200-gallon tanks, so they're going to fill at different speeds. And you can kind of hear when they're getting full and kind of gauge, you know, how much water is going into each of the tanks. And then you can also use this same manifold system to move water. In another part of this presentation, we talked about the 500-gallon tank having the option of being either an application tank or a nurse tank. In its nurse tank mode, you do not have to use the pumps to pump liquid out of the nurse tank into one of the other tanks. We actually have a 40-gallon a minute electric transfer pump that we've designed into the system with a switch right here that will move water out of the 500-gallon tank into any other tank on the truck, with the exception of the eductor tank. So if you finish emptying this tank, you need to move water. You can move water at 40 gallons a minute, which means this 200-gallon tank will be full in 5 minutes. And it works for every tank on the truck. The other thing you can do is, if you're concerned about degassing, chlorine or fluoride in the public water system, you can also just pump water out of the 500-gallon tank and either back into the 500-gallon tank so that you can help to degas things that are in your public water supply that you don't want to use when you're spraying. Another even better way of dealing with that is to use humic acid. If you put enough humic acid in a tank to just slightly discolor the water so that you can see that there's a change in the color, that humic acid will have locked up all of the toxins in that tank of water. Very simple, very inexpensive, and you'll get much better performance out of your chemical products if you deactivate all of the items that might be in your public water system. So you fill the truck here, you have water in all the tanks, but there's another option with this particular system, particularly since you have the 40-gallon in a minute pump. First of all, you do have a certain amount of liquid stored in all this plumbing. So if you were to come back to this valve and open it, there's a lot of water in there. So you can use this water to rinse out backpacks or to wash down a spill. But more than that, if you're using the 500-gallon tank as a nurse tank, you have 500 gallons of water on your truck that with the 40-gallon minute transfer pump, you can pump all of it off the truck through this particular fitting to do all kinds of things that you may want to do with clean, fresh water. I want to point out that we have drain system on the truck for all of the tanks except for the eductor. And actually there's a way to do the eductor too. I'll show you that in a second. But this is a three-way valve here on the bottom of this cone tank. So the way the valve is set now, liquid, it sucks out of the cone tank and goes into the manifold to do whatever you want to do with it. If I were to turn that the opposite way, turn this handle 180 degrees, this tank would drain totally. So if there's any reason that you need to totally clear out a tank because you're changing products or there's some issue that you need to address, it's very easy to clean out this tank and drain all the contents out of it. I also want to mention too that there's a special fixture on the top of each of these tanks so that the water basically goes in but will not splash out. So you can take those particular funnel shaped things off the top of the tank if you need to get in there to clean it and so forth. But for the most part, you won't have to do that because you can put all of your products in through either this eductor tank or the 60-gallon tank in the front of the truck. I mentioned the fact that the special funnels on top of each of the tanks was designed to be one way, to let water into the tank but not out of the tank. And this is the particular unit that goes on top of each of these 3 large tanks. This 4-inch piece of PVC goes inside the tank. There are holes drilled in it to let liquid out as the tank's filling, but this is how you also hear a change in sound so that you know that it's almost full. If you're not watching it, you can still hear it. And there's a special ring on each of these tanks to create a nice tight seal. So these are one way in, no way out.